welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do a comparison between these two models, these two Casio G-Shock models. Now these are two very popular, almost ubiquitous analog digital models, which I have reviewed before. This one very much more recently, whereas this model was quite a while back. So, let's just introduce them quickly. So over on the left corner, we have the popular GA-110 model. This one is submodel LN-2A. So kind of this layered neon is what this is supposed to be, in this dark blue with kind of gold. And this one I got quite a long time ago and reviewed quite a long time ago. So that one's on the left. On the right corner, I have a GA-710 model, or the base model is GA-700, same module that they use. So you can see they're both a negative LCD display. This one has the subline of GB-1A. So this one is in black and gold dial with gold hands. That's really obviously what this color scheme is. So, they're both kind of ubiquitous. They're everywhere, and they're very popular models. You'll see this in shops, in malls. Probably as you walk into the mall, right, the nearest one you can find, you will see these models. They both have asymmetric design, and I kind of chose both of these because of their asymmetric designs, and I find that of interest. Very similar base functions with slight variations, and they both have the standard G-Shock features. They have the Casio Horology with the mode buttons and setting features. This one does have an extra button for the light there, so it's slightly different. They both have, of course, resin covered cases and standard resin bands. In fact, very identical bands in this case. They both have the standard steel backs with G-Shock features of 200-meter water resistance, as well as shock resistance, of course. So which of these is going to be better? Which of this might you choose, and what features objectively are better? That's what I'm going to try to cover. MSRP on the left is $120. Realistic sale price under 90, I think, when this was selling more popularly. Whereas this one is actually 150 USD in terms of the MSRP. The realistic sale price just under $100, so slightly more expensive. Okay, so guys, let's get into the categories here. So first of all, I've got the module. All right, so the one on the left is module 5146, so multifunction quartz. They're both multifunction quartz models, no difference there in terms of the, I guess, the basic electronics. They nearly have all the same functions, right? So these are basic analog digital models. They don't have solar, they don't have GPS or Bluetooth and multi-sensor or whatnot, right? Just basic battery powered. The 110 has a speed measurement, so kind of like a tachymeter function, and you can set different units of distance, and you can check that out in my full review if you want to find out more about that function. Whereas the 710 has a direct stopwatch start function. So if I press that, you can see it goes straight into stopwatch start. So that's a kind of a valued feature amongst Casio G-Shock enthusiasts. And it also does have a target stopwatch time, so you can set a target time, and when the stopwatch reaches that particular time, it will have an alarm. So slightly different functions, but they're nearly identical. So they have the same world time, 5 daily alarms, timer, all the basic stuff are there. Okay, so I've given 7 out of 10 for both of these because they really are nearly identical in capability. Alright guys, next up, case and bezel. So the cases are very similar size, right? They're both kind of large size analog digital watches. The one on the left is 51mm. This one is slightly bigger at 53mm, but nearly the same. I think the 110 is slightly more sleek, right? More rounded curves there in terms of the design, whereas the 710 is more muscular. Okay, just a little bit more angular, a little bit more thicker, a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit badder and bolder, but it's kind of an aesthetic thing, and I think overall they're not separable for me. I've given both of these 7 out of 10 for kind of the design of the case here. It's just an aesthetic preference, I think, to differentiate between them. Dial and crystal. Okay, so the glass is nothing to talk about. They're both kind of standard G-Shock mineral glass. Okay, this one, whilst I do like the asymmetric design, it over time, it just looks a little bit weaker. Those hands can look a bit plasticky if you look closely, especially the proximal bits, the bits near the middle. All right, it's a pretty good look, you know. Then has been a very popular model for a very long time. But if you put this next to it, I think this definitely edges ahead, right? You know, it does have the resin molding technology to make the dial and the hands look like steel, as well as the indices. They are not steel, they say it's resin, but you know, just that styling, I think edges ahead, and I have to give the mark of the dial. You know, I think the dial of the right watch, the GA-710, does look overall better, just more polished, more solid, more muscular. You know, preferentially, I've given that the mark here, so 8 versus 7 for the dial mark here. All right. Next one, the straps. Right, this isn't really to talk about, right? They're identical resin straps. In fact, they're so identical, they both have the 2-prong holes there. So I'm not going to talk any more about that. Casio straps do fall apart after a number of years, and you can find replacements for them. So I'm not going to mark it any more than 5 out of 10. You could argue differently, but I think you have to say they are the same mark, whatever mark you choose to give. Quality as well, not really rated, right? They are identical. Of course, they're both from Casio G-Shock range. Whether you give 7 or 6 or 8, that's up for debate. But I think Casio quality, whilst it's not immediately mind-blowing, I think definitely they have a very good track record. Electronics-wise, it's nearly second to none, because you know, you hear stories of Casio G-Shocks and other Casio electronics which have lasted for generations. And you know, it's really something that is testament to the quality of their electronics. And I've chosen 8 out of 10. Whatever you give, I think, you know, you got to give identical marks. They really are the same build, same DNA here. Style-wise, okay, another differentiating this factor here. So I got these watches for their asymmetric design. You know, I've mentioned that. Right, I think the 710, the GA-710 on the right, is just overall slightly edgier, more muscular, you know, plus it's got that resin molding technology to achieve that steel look. I think whilst, you know, I like the GA-110 look, I have to give the mark, I think, for the style to the GA-710. I think in terms of just G-Shock toughness, it does have more of that, you know, it just has more charisma, I think, overall. So style-wise, 8 versus 7 on this category. Right, performance. Okay, another differentiating factor here, you know, surprisingly. So I've given the mark here to the GA-110, and I'll explain why. So the GA-710 has a direct start function, right, straight from the time mode, but the timer here is 60 minutes. Right, it's only got a 60-minute countdown. Yes, it's 1/10 of a second, but it's 60 minutes. And the stopwatch is 1/100th of a second, and it only goes for 24 hours. Now, this one, it doesn't have the direct start, but it does have that speed tachymeter measurement function. What it does also have is a 100-hour stopwatch with 1/1000th of a second resolution, and also a longer timer. It's a 24-hour timer. And now, function-wise, in terms of lighting, they both kind of suck, actually. You know, you can barely tell the time with that LED light, and this one is, you know, similar. No better, really. You can't read the LCD display because they both poorly display in the dark. You really need light to read those LCD negative displays here. So they're both not as good as each other, but I think function, this one has a slight edge here. So I've given 7 versus 6 on the kind of performance / function stakes here. All right, next up, durability. Okay, again, not really talking too much about this. They're both from the G-Shock Ultimate line of beaters, right? I mean, in terms of toughness, if you're going to get a watch that you think you're going to subject to real abuse, a G-Shock, I think, is the way to go. Now, what's the differentiating thing here? Well, the 110, you know, you can see, hopefully you can see on the case back here, it says anti-magnetic, right? Under that G-Shock logo there, whereas the other one doesn't have anti-magnetic. I think this one probably deserves a half mark more for that extra resistance, you know, just to show you this one actually doesn't have that anti-magnetic there, okay? But I'm sticking with 10 out of 10 for both. They're both G-Shock toughness, just that slight differentiating anti-magnetic factor there. Next up, value. Okay, Why have I given 9 out of 10 to the GA-110? Well, I think they're both super Casio value, the best beta package with multi-functions, both under $100. But I think the 110 is just available slightly cheaper. Generally speaking, it is slightly cheaper and nearly the same in terms of toughness and functions. Actually, it does actually have a slight edge in function, and it does have that anti-magnetic. So for slightly cheaper, even though aesthetically I would prefer the 710, I have to give the value a slight edge to the GA-110 here. So I've given 9 versus 8 on the value mark. Last one, okay, again, not really a discussion factor here. Whether you choose to give 7 or 8 or 6 for Casio, they're both the same brand. I've chosen to give 7 out of 10. That's what I've given Casio before on head-to-heads, and that's what I'm sticking with. Right, guys, so who wins? Actually, it is a tie in this case. So in summary, this has been a rather fun comparison for me to do. So they're both capable multifunction quartz modules. They got the typical G-Shock resin case design, tough case. They got the Casio quality and typical poor resin strap. So a lot of the things are the same. I think the 110 has marginally better performance because of those additional slight edges on the features. It does have the anti-magnetic resistance, and I think marginally better value because usually you can get this for slightly cheaper. The 710, at least in my opinion, has the better looks. It's got a better looking dial, it's got better overall good looks, and it's got that direct start timing function, which differentiates it from the other watch. But overall, 74 out of 100. Really, it's toe-to-toe, and what you choose depends on, I think, function and as well as aesthetic preferences. So guys, there we go. Hope you enjoyed that head-to-head comparison between two G-Shocks. I think there's a first head-to-head between two G-Shocks that I have done. Let me know what you think about this, and if you own either of this, if you own G-Shocks, let me know how you feel about them and what other models might you pit head-to-head against one another. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. I put out new content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys next time.